Hello, welcome back to Al Talks. This podcast I started 3 years ago to chronicle me starting stand up. This podcast is a weekly podcast. It comes out once a week, and this is just a small little introduction video into the podcast. So, down below in the description of each episode, you can go to my Linktree and find links to everything connected to me. This podcast is available on YouTube, which you're watching it on right now, and also on Spotify. But yeah, that is just a small introduction into this podcast and everything that goes along with it. Hello, welcome back to Al Talks. I'm back again recording a batch of episodes. I think I'll record about 3. You'll have about 3 weeks of content, give or take. So what do I want to talk about? So this episode will be to follow up from 2 weeks ago, which is that I went to Vienna to do stand-up and to visit my good friend Malinda. What is wrong with this? I don't know. There's something wrong with this. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. I don't really know if I'll, because I did 3 shows during my week in Vienna. Well, 6 days. I came on Monday and I left on Saturday, so nearly a week. And I don't know. It's 3 shows. I've never really posted that many comedy vlogs in the one go, I suppose. And it would feel weird if I posted them on different weeks. But I think, I don't know, I think I'll space them out, maybe. So post one every second day or something, I don't know. And let me just see. Yeah, I think I'll just post them throughout this week, space them out. Maybe say for example the podcast episodes come out on Tuesday. So 3 comedy vlogs. So I post one on Thursday, and then Saturday, or every second day. So I don't know. I think it'll work out if I because this will come out on Tuesday, and you'll have. So I think today, if I post one on Monday, and then every 2 days will. I think that makes sense. So. Oh, actually, what I could do is even better. I'll post them on the days that I did the shows last week. So, Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday. Oh, see? Big brain thinking. Now, how was Vienna? How was Vienna? Well, comedy-wise, the scene is different. And Vienna, they speak German. So English, a lot of people know English, but not. I think the best way to explain it is nobody really cares that much about for example, there's only one English speaking channel on TV in Austria. They're not Austrian people. Their idea of entertainment wouldn't be stand up and stuff like that. So to them, they don't really seem to care or give a shit. Or so the shows that are for example, on what the hell is that? Something in my shoe. For example, on Monday night, I'll probably suppose I'll explain the shows I did also. So before I went over to Vienna, I had asked Malinda, who lives there now, one of the reasons I went over to visit. Well, one of the main big reason, and also because I wanted to go on holidays. But the big kind of factor, the reason I went to Vienna was because of Malinda, a friend of the podcast, and my friend, fellow comic. And did I do this wrong? I thought I connected some wrong anyway. Hopefully not, because everything's still functioning. But anyway, so I went over and I had asked him, because N2O started in Vienna before Malinda came to Dublin. And there was a show on the N2O on Thursday that day, LOL Vienna, which is the show that Malinda produces. He'll be doing a couple of them throughout the year. I think about 8 or 10 shows. So I had reached out to him and was like, so where can I do comedy? And he said, reach out to Wiener Comedy, who I did 2 shows with. And then Tuesday to Sunday, there is open mics and shows at the Comedy Pub in Vienna, which is a new enough establishment. They're only established like 2023. So I emailed Wiener Comedy, and they run, well, that week they had 2 shows on. I think the open mic runs every Monday, and then they do a thing called PowerPoint Karaoke, which is nothing to do with singing, because I originally thought it was karaoke. As I was kind of like the guy who booked the show, Roland, shout out, very nice Austrian man. Didn't meet an awful lot of nice Austrian people because some of them were fucking annoying and very rude. If you're traveling to Austria, get ready for the rude people, because there seems to be a whole lot of them there. It's like they manufactured them, but I don't know. So what are we talking about? So yeah, so I reached out to Roland, who booked for Wiener Comedy, and he was like, yeah, he could come on Monday, an open mic, I'll give you a spot, and then PowerPoint Karaoke on Friday. Now, I thought it was actually singing, because I haven't really done a lot of karaoke, but some places they project the lyrics to the songs on, projector. Project, what do you project? So, on a projector, so that's, that. So I thought that's what I was. It's like, I was on holidays, let's give it a go, it's a bit of fun. Now, I'll talk about it later in the episode, but it turned out it wasn't singing, it was completely different. It's actually a really good concept. So I get to do the show. Now, because, well, obviously this will be after the comedy vlog, so because I'm doing the comedy vlogs, I'm not really going to go into... I'll just, I suppose, talk about more the comedy scene in this particular podcast episode, because the vlogs will explain the actual show itself. But the reason I'll talk about the Wiener Comedy open mic is because, like I said, I'm going to post on Monday and whatever, so it'll be, you will have already seen that episode before or see that short before you see this video, so. And I hope you do watch both of them, and all 3 of them, because it's content that I'm putting out for people that don't. Well, see, anyway. So, the show wasn't great. I bombed terribly, which was not. There was like, I think 3 German people and 4 Austrians. Everybody else was from different countries from abroad, around Europe and that. And it was. Like, some of the material I did was, I thought, like, in my head, I had written, these are jokes, like, about, like, one of them, for example, is like an Arnold Schwarzenegger joke that goes into, like, doing an impression of him, which, Arnold Schwarzenegger is Austrian. I'm in Austria. I thought they'd enjoy it. They did not. And then other jokes about... like me growing up with a kid from Germany, and the World War II stuff, which again, that joke that I wrote for it, I thought it would be it'd be playful. They did not enjoy it. In fact, very little people enjoyed it. But the thing, like, as well, I looked over the footage from the show, and like at the start I was doing well. One bit that always seems to work for me, because I change it. One of my opening jokes is about being mistaken to be from a different region than I am, and Salzburg is this city or town close to Vienna. That I had mentioned that I wanted mistaken, then it was Salzburg, and the people like that, because you often see when, especially if comedians from the US come over to like Europe, they don't change. Like, for example, they'll mention stuff like 7-Eleven and Walmart and stuff like that, which things we don't have in Europe because we have different stores here. But they don't change the material, and it kind of gets lost in translation, stuff like that. So I never want to be in that position. So I always work those bits in whatever region. And for example, when I was in Bristol, I did that joke, but I said, "Oh, I look like someone from." Somebody said Brighton once, and said, so that's kind of a little workaround. So it's a very, very simple thing, but it's simple but very, very effective. So there's that, and then so that was that show. Like I said, I kind of leave the actual comedy, how it went to the comedy vlogs, because that's their purpose. But essentially, like, Vienna's comedy scene is a bit different. Like, Malinda had told me, like, it's very new, say maybe only in the last, English-speaking comedy anyway, maybe only in the last, like, 14, 15 years it started. Like, when Malinda started, there was probably about 4 or 5 comics who were doing English stand-up comedy. They were all running shows, and then he moved to Ireland. That's where we met. And then when he moved back, things had changed. The comedy pub had opened up. Essentially, there's the N2 of Vienna. There's a comedy pub. There's Vienna Comedy Club, and they perform in a hotel. I don't think they were running shows the week I was there. I don't think. There's actually because on the Monday after the show at Vienna Comedy, the open mic, I met a couple of the comedians who performed on the show. Some of them were sticking around after the show. We were having a talk. It was like for making connections. Like I said, the purpose of this trip was to go over to visit Malinda, hang out with him, and do some spots, and then make connections. Because I don't really know that many comedians in mainland Europe, other than the ones that travel over to Ireland that I get to meet. But it was a great way to make connections, because there was comedians like Germany, Belgium, and then Luxembourg as well. Because the comic, he lives in Belgium, but he knows Flemish, so, there's even Russian language shows. Like, one of the comedians from Romania, she was telling me that she was at an open mic in Russian the same day. Had I known, I would have reached out and see if I could get a spot. But I'll know for next time when I go back to visit Vienna. But I definitely made, the scene there is different, because, like, I suppose it would be a younger scene, as in, like, it wouldn't, for example, like, in Ireland, the International Comedy Club has been around since 1988. That's, 40 odd years, give or take. So it's different in that sense. Whereas this is much, much newer. Now, I don't actually know if there's, like, German comedy clubs over in Vienna. I never looked into it because I don't speak German, and I'm not going to learn now, just for the sake of doing stand-up in different language. And so it's new scene. Things have changed a little bit as well in the last couple of years, and a lot of the comics I have met, they were new starting out. They were about 2-3 years in, and okay, also it's not an ego thing. Like, coming into this summer, it'd be like 6 years of doing stand-up for me, which I'm very excited about. But also, like, actually as well, another cool thing that happened in Vienna was that on the Wednesday night show at the open mic and comedy pub, Light at the end of the road, I think it's called. They had, each open mic has different names and stuff, but I did my 100th comedy show. Now, in saying that, I've done over 100 comedy shows, but I'm counting ones since I've started actually recording them. Basically since I think 2023 is when I started to record every single show I did. Now, like, before that, I would, because before there was a couple, like, the earlier open mics that I did were just some of them you might as well not count because they were really terrible and bad. But essentially, like, officially, I would say the 100th show, which I did on Wednesday, which went well, but you'll hear about in a comedy vlog and whatnot. And then, what else am I trying to think about? Comedy scene, so the kind of like I said, I'll talk more about how the shows went in the comedy vlogs, but what I'll mention is the last kind of thing. Because this episode's getting... It's a good episode, I think, so far. But... So yeah, the PowerPoint karaoke thing. The PowerPoint karaoke is nothing to do with singing whatsoever, which I was glad, because I don't sing. That's why I do comedy. Because they always say a comedian is just a failed musician and vice versa. So, it's another... Basically, it's another event that Wiener Comedy puts on. But what's different about this event is... like, PowerPoint karaoke is like, for example, the night I did it was 8 comics. I don't know if there's usually more or not, but you get a PowerPoint presentation. You go up on stage. There's it's like a screen that they pull down, and you get a thing for presentations, a clicker where you can change the slides. It's a laser pointer, and essentially it's 10 slides. Within the 10 slides, there's just a random topic that you have to improv on the spot. That's what PowerPoint karaoke is. I think it was started by like a marketing team over in Germany, I think like 2005 or something. And I have to say, for me, like, I enjoyed it, I think, more than the audience did, because the topic I got was just very, very silly. It was like healthy eating habits or something. I was like, I'm the wrong. It was a lot of stuff in it that was very funny. Like, there was, for some reason, it went into like healthy eating and sports, and it showed wrestlers. I was like, does anyone know about wrestling? Like, you know, because wrestling has been like WWF and then WWE. Like, wrestling's been bought by Netflix, so it's on Netflix now and stuff. So it's completely different. But I remember, like, in the early 90s when it was like ECW and NWO, and it was just crazy times. And you see a lot of those wrestlers now on podcasts talk about like just the physical toll and the grind that it took on them to perform so many shows throughout the year. And a lot of them, you know, had addiction problems and stuff like that. So, but kind of lean away from the dark side of the ring. Actually, is a good documentary about that sort of stuff. And so, you know, like, doing the PowerPoint karaoke was just so much fun. Because the thing as well is, you can pick presenters from the audience, which happened to one guy who was really nervous on stage. I don't think he had ever done any sort of presentation. He got on stage and he like held the microphone like way down here, and when the comic's there, he was like, put the microphone up to your face, and he was like, oh yeah, and he kept putting the microphone away from his face, so like sometimes you'd hear him like really quietly, but it was very, very enjoyable in the end. It's a great concept. It's really, to be honest, I think it's a very good interactive show, especially because it gets the audience involved in judging and stuff like that. But one thing I was kind of confused about, this has been around since 2005. I can't believe that this is not integrated as one night in a comedy club somewhere here in Ireland. I'm gonna suggest it to somebody who actually does sort of stuff like this. My friend who runs an event company that he started during the pandemic, during COVID, and we'll see what he thinks of it. But it's you know, you would have to do a bit of work doing the slides and stuff like that. But essentially, it's not difficult. You know what I mean? Like, PowerPoint is not a particularly difficult tool to use. All you would essentially need would be a screen, a projector, and a laptop, and a clicky pointy thing. And also microphones for 2 hosts, an amplifier. But I mean, like, look, a comedy club would essentially have most of this stuff. So it's a very, very interesting thing. And see how it goes. Maybe I might even start it up, because genuinely, as a performer, it's probably the most fun I had at a comedy show, and I don't know how long. And I wasn't really even a comedy show. It's more of a kind of a improv presentation, which is I really enjoyed. And other than that, I mean, this podcast isn't really about traveling, but I did some kind of touristy things that I want to do as well. Not all of it, but I spent a lot of the week just hanging around comedians and making, you know, just kind of connections. And, you know, they were asking, and the other fun thing is everyone was kind of like I'm from Siberia in the Russian Federation, but I live in Ireland. And I was like, oh, the Irish fella. I was like, I'm not Irish, but they were like, you've lived there for so long. But it was just funny that everyone kept calling me the Irish fella the entire week, which is funny. I did actually meet a lot of Irish people over there as well, who were confused as to why I was there, and they were like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "I'm a comic. To be good at comedy and to travel." Another shocking thing was a lot of the comedians that were in Europe coming over to Vienna. They were like, "Oh, we just took the train here," and I was like, "Well, the other thing is public transport in Vienna is great, very very good, highly enjoyable to use it. Whereas in Ireland, not so much. It's very backward, and I don't know, but." Trying to think of anything else. Looking at my notes here, that's pretty much it, I think. This has been quite a long episode, but then there's been a lot to cover. Like I said, I'm not really going into how the comedy shows went and whatnot, because that'll be covered in the comedy vlogs. That's their purpose. But overall, a bit of a culture shock with people being very, very rude. Something I suppose I'll have to keep an eye out in the future, especially if I go back to Austria or go to Germany, because people said in Germany they're like this as well. So I do want to go at some stage over to Germany to do stand up. So I suppose it will have to be something I have to get used to if I plan to travel around Europe for comedy. But 3 shows and like PowerPoint Karaoke isn't really a stand-up show, but it works so well for stand-ups because it gets you thinking on your mind. You have to be funny, but even because members of the public get to be in on it. But it's a good I'm counting as because I was, even before the presentation started, I did like kind of introduce myself, do a couple of jokes and whatnot, and like you don't have to, but I suppose you could, and I did. But yeah, so I suppose that is that, and yeah. Anyway, you have, like I said, this would be a next batch of bulk content to record, which will probably lead into, I think, like the middle of March. Coming up, I have shows wise, I have nothing booked, but I'm going to see Jordan Jensen soon. I think she's in on the 6th of March, and the 6th of April is Craig Conan. Well, Craig Conant, not Craig Conan. From the US as well. And then I've got that doing stand up in Russian as well for the first time in April. So, a busy couple of weeks. And then I don't like think. I don't know how stand up will go for the rest of the year, to be honest. But we'll see. Try and do whatever amount of shows as per usual. But yeah, as per usual, also all the links down below for everything. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I had quite an entertaining week in Vienna, to say the least. But yeah, I suppose I'll catch you next episode. Bye bye.